All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a revolution in the book world that's moving so unbelievably fast it makes high-speed kitchen gadgets look like they're standing still. We're digging into a piece from myersworld.de to really understand what happens when machines start writing our novels.
So the source we're exploring kicks things off with this just brilliant analogy. It compares AI's impact to a Thermomix cranked up to full blast, and that perfectly captures the sheer speed of this change. You got to understand, we're not talking about some slow, gentle shift here. This is a complete, high-speed takeover of an entire industry.
The whole story really kicks off with this one kind of jaw-dropping number, 200. What on earth could that be?
Yeah, and when you get the context, it's just staggering. That's not 200 pages, that's 200 novels, all produced by a single author, a woman named Coral Hart, in only 8 months, using AI. I mean, think about that. An entire library's worth of books, created in what feels like the blink of an eye. And this is where you see the sheer scale of it all. She didn't just write a few books. She basically built a mini publishing empire. We're talking 21 different pen names, covering dozens of genres, selling 50,000 copies, and pulling in a six-figure income. And the engine behind all of it? A process that lets her pump out a whole novel in about 45 minutes. What we're looking at here is writing being transformed from, a craft into a full-blown industrial production line.
Okay, so this begs the question, right? Why romance? Of all the genres out there, why is this the one that's basically sounding the alarm, the canary in the coal mine for this AI earthquake that's shaking up publishing?
Well, first up, you just have to follow the money. The romance genre isn't some tiny niche corner of the book world. No way. It's a behemoth. It accounts for more than a fifth of all adult fiction sales. So you've got this huge, profitable target. And, wherever there's big money, disruption is never far behind. But it's not just about the money. The genre is also vulnerable because of the very things that make it so popular. It's built on these predictable formulas, or tropes, as fans call them. You know the ones, right? Enemies to lovers, the whole forced proximity thing, and of course that guaranteed happy ending. These are all patterns that a chatbot can learn and replicate really easily. You add that to the fact that the romance community has always been the first to jump on new tech like ebooks and self-publishing, and you've got yourself a perfect storm. But of course, all this speed, all this efficiency, it comes with a pretty big price tag. And that brings us right to the heart of the conflict here, the massive ethical dilemma at the core of this whole technology. Yeah, the source we're looking at has a name for this. It calls it the original sin of AI. Think about it. These incredibly powerful language models, they didn't just learn to write out of thin air. They were trained on huge libraries of books, copyrighted books, that were just scraped off the internet, all without asking the authors and certainly without paying them.
And you can just feel the frustration from creators. Best-selling author Marie Force, for example, she found out that 80 of her own novels were used to train one of these AI models. And when she calls the result digital slush, man, that just perfectly sums up this fear that the whole system that authors rely on is being flooded and devalued by this stuff.
So with this huge conflict brewing, the whole industry is kind of at a fork in the road. It feels like there are two very different ways this could all go. And the author of our source material frames this perfectly. They say it's a choice between two different attitudes. On one side, you've got the adventurous spirit. These are the people who are going to dive in, learn to use this tool, and actually build something for the future. And on the other side, you've got the swamp of technophobia, where critics just reject it outright, and they risk, sinking in their own criticism without offering any real way forward. Okay, but here's the thing. For all its power, for all its speed, AI has a tell. It's like a poker player with a nervous tick. There's a ghost in the machine, a little flaw that gives away its non-human origin. And this really gets to the heart of it. As author and psychologist Sonia Rampapodis puts it, AI can describe what happens, but it doesn't understand the human experience behind it. It just doesn't get why we read. People don't read these books to get a mechanical description of events. They read them to feel seen, to feel that connection. And check out this perfect example of that. When Rampodi tried to create a plus-size heroine, the AI turned her into a caricature. It became obsessed with her weight, describing how a chair would groan when she sat down. The AI just totally whiffed. It missed the entire point of representation and emotional depth, and just reduced her to this one clumsy physical detail. So this lack of real understanding, it leads to these weird little quirks. Researchers started noticing this one very specific phrase, "he gasped her name like a ragged prayer," popping up again and again in AI books from totally different authors. It's basically a digital fingerprint, a little verbal tick that screams, "a machine wrote this." So, where does this all leave us? What are we supposed to make of this lightning-fast transformation of an entire creative field? What does it mean for all of us? Well, the source lays out three kind of core principles for how to handle this. First off, own it. If you use AI, just be straight up about it. Second, respect the sources. You have to acknowledge and fight for the human creators whose work made the AI possible in the first place. And finally, you've got to grasp its true power. This isn't just a fancy calculator or a spell checker. It's an industrial strength tool, and it has to be treated that way. And that brings us to the final, really provocative question, one that we all kind of have to answer for ourselves now. In this brave new literary world, where do you stand? Would you pick up and read a book you knew was written by an AI? That's the question we're all facing.